Hi there. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the ubled site. I want to specifically talk a little bit about security and confidentiality and privacy. But before I do that, I just want to think through some ideas about, how do we do ubled? How do you do ubled in that sense? What kind of a site is it? Because in a sense, although it's mapped onto and in some senses mirrors the way that YouTube works, it isn't YouTube. And it isn't owned by Google, and it isn't a large-scale organisation. And I think it would be a real shame if this kind of site, whether it be this one or another one, ever became like that. What I really want, and what I would like ubled and other sites like it to do, is to take a much more kind of cottage industry approach to this. I would like, rather than a single octopus-like organisation with lots of arms, I would much prefer to see lots of small sites, something like ubled, lots of them. Somehow, I don't quite know the technicalities of this, but somehow managing to share information with lots and lots of different user interfaces, all drawing on the same basic data. That 1,000 blossoms bloom or something like that, whatever the saying is. I'd much rather see something like that, something that's decentralised, local, easy to run, quick to move, nomadic, those kind of things. I think that's a much stronger way of working, and I think it's the future, quite frankly. Some of the effects of that, I think, particularly in the interim until things change socially, much more dramatically than they seem to be doing, is that there will be some clear differences and some clear differences in expectations about visiting a site like ubled as opposed to visiting one of the big sites like YouTube. For a start off, it's always going to be simpler. We, and I think I can say we now, we just don't have either the expertise or the resources or even the desire to constantly keep innovating and bringing in all the toys that YouTube brings in. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to. There's a lot of bloat on YouTube. There's a lot of features on there which we don't need. And I would want to simplify it. At the moment, the site looks a little bit like YouTube circa 2008 to me. And I think that's about right. And it's also very transparent. If you would look at the most active users, for example, it's very easy to understand why they're the most active because the numbers are there. You can see why that list is the way it is. And it's that kind of transparency which I would absolutely want to keep developing, which you don't get on one of the bigger sites. I have absolutely no idea what algorithms lie behind the featured artists lists on YouTube or why certain videos are recommended, or all those kinds of things. I have absolutely no idea. So I would want to keep it much, much simpler and much more understandable, quite frankly. And I don't mind losing a few features if that's the price you pay. In fact, I prefer less features. Kind of related to that, and the fact that it is something of a cottage industry, and I would hope it eventually becomes a large network of small cottage industries, an anarcho-syndicalist network, if you will, is that, at least in the short term, it doesn't do well by comparison. I mean, my favourite analysis, kind of a comparison right now, is it's rather like either shopping at Sainsbury's or one of the large supermarkets, or shopping at your local farmer's market. Yes, if you go to your local farmer's market, the vegetables are going to need washing more. They're going to be a funny shape. You might have to stand in line to get there. You might have difficulty parking. So you probably don't want to do it every day. But when you do it, it is a particular kind of shopping experience, and you are contributing not just to the local community, but also to a kind of ideology. I don't want to get all political about this, but you are kind of contributing to a different ideology and supporting a different ideology than the one that large supermarkets represent. And of course, we can't all be saints all the time. I shop at supermarkets most of the time, and only occasionally go to farmers markets and local produce stores. And I would anticipate the same kinds of things happening for ubled. I would imagine that people most of the time would want to go to YouTube or something like it, because that's where most of the people are, and it's fast and it's got all the features that you want. And particularly, if you don't feel, if you're in a bit of a hurry or something like that, you can't be bothered to wait the extra 3 seconds while the ubled page loads. I can understand that. But ubled has this other function of it being part of a different kind of network and having a different kind of social organisation underpinning it. So I would hope it would act as in that kind of a role, and I say it, meaning it and its sister sites when they eventually evolve. So I think that's really important. about the approach. Secondly, just in relation to that, in pragmatic terms, I would hope that at some point people do feel comfortable about making sister sites. I don't know exactly how that will work. I'm sorry, the technology is just not. I'm just not there with the technology yet. But certainly, when my site's finished, and it's nearly there now, I'll be uploading all of the templates and everything, and making those freely available, and along with instructions on how to upload it onto your own server. So if you want one just like it, I think that'd be great. I think, and I am sure that at some point in the near future, someone will find a way of communicating the information across these different databases, or will find ways of torrenting or magneting these databases into some different form, whatever. But either way, I absolutely support a distributed approach, and we want us to go that way, if that's possible. Now, confidentiality, security, and privacy. I mean, these things are really important. I mean, one of the things that bothers me about the large organisations is how much information they get from you and how they use it. And by that, I don't mean there's anything particularly nefarious about individuals in those organisations, although there may be. But it does bother me, when my browsing results turn into perfectly tuned advertisements for things that a person of my demographic might fit. I find that a little bit creepy, to be honest with you. So and for other reasons, I find confidentiality and privacy these things are important, and data protection very important. And I should just say, as a little bit of my history here, that although I haven't done it for a couple of years, I have been involved with website projects, and I've acted as data controller on various websites, which means I've been kind of the guy to come to if there's any kind of data protection issue, which there never has been, thankfully. But that did give me a background in that information, in having that information. So I do know, certainly in the UK, about the Data Protection Act. I know about who to speak to. I know what's allowed and what's not, and who can access it. I kind of know that kind of stuff. And for a long time I was registered with the Data Protection Agency, the DPA. And I've just applied to be re-registered actually with the ubled project. Because of the nature of the data that particular project collects, as you know, if you register for the site, it asks you for a username and your email address and one or two other bits and pieces. It's not mission critical information, so technically speaking I don't actually need to register with the Data Protection Agency, but you can register voluntarily, which is what I've done on there, just as a kind of belt and braces backup, really, just to make sure everything is clearly legal, and you know that well, I would just like to think that you can trust me to protect your data, and if you're in any doubt, I'm putting myself in direct firing line of the law as a way of demonstrating that to you, because I would like you to have some confidence in me. However far this goes, and as I say, I imagine it's going in a way which is distributed. Anything else? I think that's pretty much it now. There's obviously one or two technical things. This is probably the most boring bit, I'm afraid. If you're not into technical stuff, turn away now. There are still some things I need to sort out with the registration process. I'm trying to build, I'll spend a little bit of time on this if that's all right. I'm trying to build the registration process so that each user is kind of linked to every other user. I really do want to create a kind of network or a rhizomatic structure, not as friends. I'm not particularly interested in whether people are literally friends or not, but of tolerances, of tolerance for one another, and of the capacity to share the same network with one another by having that network be complex enough that it's got lots of nooks and crannies for people to hide in and to do their own kind of thing in. And so as a way to do that, I'm finding ways to link users together through friends networks. So if you're not already a friend of anyone, and you should be, because everybody on there right now I have personally invited to be my friend. If you haven't accepted it yet, just have a look on your in your manage contacts, manage friends section, and you'll see my application to be your friend. I would strongly advise everybody who's involved in this site so far to either befriend me, if I've asked you to be my friend, please do, or find friends in the community who are already in here. Because at some point in the future, in the very near future I think, what I'll be wanting to do is build in a system whereby only people who have at least one friend, in the broadest sense, contact if you prefer that term, only one friend or contact can upload material to the site. I want material, I want the capacity, the permission to upload, the right to upload, to be contingent on your being linked into the network by at least one friend in your list. There's reasons for that which I'll try and spill out in a different video. But if you haven't already accepted a friendship or engaged in a friendship of some kind, then I would encourage you to do so, because it'll be important later. I think that's pretty much it really. Just one or two little glitches. For some reason I can't get subscribers to show up. There should be a system where you can view people's subscribers, but it doesn't seem to be working. And I've looked, across all the documentation and many sites who also run the same software, and I can't find anywhere else that's doing the subscriber thing either. So there's clearly some problem there. But I'll see what I can do on that one. I've got someone here at work, actually. I'm making this video from work. But I've got someone here now who's looking at some of the PHP code for me, which is brilliant. And a YouTube user called Powered by Magnets is also helping out with that. So thanks, Powered by Magnets. Really appreciate that. I'm hoping we'll be able to put those kind of things in place once we can do that. I think that's probably pretty much it. I know one or two people had trouble signing on. I'm not quite sure why that was. I've tested it several times myself and it's always been fine. But I know one or two other people do seem to have had some difficulties with the sign-up process. Again, I'll test that in various browsers and with different configurations. And if you're one of those people, the more detail you can give me about those experiences, the more I'll be able to duplicate them and try and trace the source of the problem. Anyway, I think that's it. I've got to go home now. It's the end of the day. But thank you to those people who are helping me out with this project and testing it with me. I find it terribly exciting, and it's really interesting. And the more people come on board, the more interesting kinds of behaviour we can note. And the more of a step towards a truly distributed and a truly decentralised kind of system we'll have, which I think is going to be to all our benefits. Anyway, thanks very much. Bye.